Hey everyone, Xander here from Access Gaming Podcast. My podcast is moving to a new website called Podomatic.com. I'll have a link below, you guys can check it out. But for you loyal YouTube subscribers, I decided to upload this podcast a week in advance just so you guys can get a taste of the episodes to come. It's going to be a lot longer, better sound quality, overall, just a better show. Hope you guys enjoy it and have a good time.
Excess Gaming Podcast, a podcast for gamers by gamers, with your hosts Xander Scullion and James Gruesome, bringing back something old, something new, and a little bit of nostalgia too.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Excess Gaming Podcast. This is episode 13, and I'm your host Xander Scullion, and joined with me is James Gruesome. Say, hey, what's up, James?
Greetings, everybody, and remember, this is the only place where you can hear the twin brother of Sabretooth and the bastard redheaded stepchild of Wolverine and Sheamus from the WWE.
And I know what you guys are thinking right now. If you're new listeners on Podomatic, you're probably like, episode 13, what happened to the other 12 episodes? Well, to tell you guys the truth, we started out on blogtalkradio.com, and it was a great site, and we absolutely loved our place there, but we wanted to do something a little different with the podcast. We wanted to have a longer show and, just have more to offer, have better sound, because we were using our cell phones for that podcast, and now we're actually using good microphones, and we're going to have longer content, hopefully have more guests, and overall better show. So I guess this is like our official first episode on Podomatic, but this is technically episode 13. So brace yourself, guys. This is going to get pretty awesome. But I know in episode 12 we were talking about games that we were, reminiscing on 2012 because it was the new year. We were talking about games that we really enjoyed, and we didn't really get to touch base on all the games that we want to talk about. It was like after the podcast, we're like, oh, I forgot to mention that. And I know, James, you told me some games that you wanted to mention on the show, so I'll go ahead and hand it over to you and tell some people about some games you really enjoyed in 2012.
Yeah, well, one of the things I really like doing is downloading games. I download a lot of stuff off PSN, and I recently got an Xbox, so now I got the options of that too. But I just love checking, at least for PSN, 3DS, any of the systems that day, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, get home from work, do what you got to do, sit down, pop on the system, and see what's new. Sometimes it's old, newer stuff, newer re-released, and sometimes it's just brand new games. And one of the games I had heard about for a while before it came out was Tokyo Jungle, and it's only on the PS3, available on PSN, and I think it's between $10 and $15, maybe cheaper if you've got PS Plus. But I got it right when it came out, and it's kind of a strange little animal life simulation in a post-apocalyptic, no human world kind of game. You have lots of different creatures you can pick from as you play on. You can download. I was really excited about the alligator, but I didn't get him yet. So I started off as a little cute puppy dog. And the dog is a little, he's a carnivore compared to as if you play with a deer, where you have to do a little bit more stealth and avoidance of other creatures, which I'm not a huge stealth fan. So I went with the vicious little Pomeranian dog. And, it's like you kind of have the whole world to yourself aside from other animals. Buildings are broken, plants are overgrown, all the humans are gone. And you go around and you have to eat, you can breed, sometimes you have to fight. And it's just, it's a unique game. I think I could see people not liking it, and, I could see you really digging it too. I really enjoyed that one. And it's great. I mean, I'd say it's up there with one of the ones you probably should download. If you think you might be interested at all, definitely probably up there with, maybe not quite up there with a game like Journey, which was another great download game you could get on PSN. So PSN has some, quite a few exclusives on there. and they're definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I don't have a PS3, but I know a couple of people that do, and I always mention I'm like, you guys should try out Tokyo Jungle because to me it sounds a lot like EVO or Spore, which is kind of like this weird life simulation, and it just the concept of it seems really cool. And I'm definitely going to get a PS3 very soon, just because I want to play Journey, I want to play Flower and Flow, and I want to play, of course, Tokyo Jungle. But a game that I'm really, really looking forward to is Ni no Kuni on the PS3 because I'm a huge Studio Ghibli fan. I love My Neighbor Totoro and Castle in the Sky, and I love those animes. And this is going to be an anime done by Studio Ghibli and Level 5, and I'm a big Dark Cloud fan, so Level 5 is right up there with me. So, I mean, it seems like a really, really fun, traditional Japanese RPG that, just looks tons of fun, and it looks absolutely beautiful. And, you don't really have the console wars with the 360 and PS3 like in the past. I mean, sure you have some fanboys, but overall, they don't really have that many exclusives from one to the other. But the PS3 does have a lot of downloadable games that are exclusively for the PS3 that would be a lot of fun. And I feel like I'm really missing out not playing them. So, when taxes come, I'm definitely probably going to go ahead and get a PS3. When I get a PS3, though, I'm going to get the second Slim, not the Ultra Slim, because I don't know about you, man. I don't know if you saw any footage of it. It looks very poorly made. It looks like it's going to break any second, man.
Tells that the last one when I got mine was the one at the time. I'm not even sure what I think it's the 160 gig. It came with Uncharted, and I think that was it. I mean, that was still, and I think I still paid like $500 around then. I remember it just kind of hurt when I went and bought it. Like I got a Best Buy credit card, like only to get this, and it was cool because I applied like over the phone, and they're like, "Here's your number if you want to use it right now." And I was like, "Oh, yes!" And so I went over to Best Buy, and that was when I got my PS3, and I've not had any issues with it. It's a big bulking thing. But it's like I said, it's still working. And also, Xander, don't forget, with the PS3, you can also play Yakuza 3, Yakuza 4, or Yakuza Dead Souls.
Yeah. It's funny because I was thinking you were about to say, you can also play Blu-rays. Because, I mean, yeah, I don't have a Blu-ray player. And, honestly, if you don't have a Blu-ray player and you're a gamer, it would just almost be a dumb idea to go out and get a Blu-ray player. I mean, just get yourself a PS3 because it's one of the best Blu-ray players on the market, and also you're getting an awesome game system as well. So, I mean, but going back to like the third incarnation of the PlayStation 3, I like the way it looks. It's got a top slider for the disc instead of like the insert. But the thing is that top slider, it looks like it's made of very, very thin plastic. I mean, it looks very, very thin. I just feel like I don't have a habit of dropping systems. It's not like I pick up systems and throw them on the ground or anything like that. But I could just see it, standing it up or something happening to it and it just falls or the door just completely stops working because it is a hinge. And I just imagine something breaking. So, it's actually kind of hard to get the second Slim PS3 because my buddy Devin, he just got a PS3, and his girlfriend was talking to me, and she was like, I'm going to get him a PlayStation. I was like, just don't get him the third model. I'm like, don't get that for him. And she was talking about how hard it was to actually find the second Slim in a retail store. She ended up having to, I believe, buying it used, like a refurbished, or I think she went to Yellow Dog Disc, which is a retro DVD, VHS. It's like one of those kind of mom and pop shops, and they have some retro games and video games in general there. And I think she ended up getting it there, and I'm glad he got that one because, yeah, man, if I want to get a system, I want it to last me a long time. I mean, I've had a Nintendo I've had since I was like 4 years old. that still works. I mean, of course I've had to replace the 72 pin connector and stuff like that, but overall it's a freaking tank. Nothing's going to.
No, so many cartridge based. That's just a great thing to me in general. Just whether it be the system or the cartridges themselves, it's very, very seldom that you can't get one to work.
Yeah.
Like there's always a possibility. I mean, the Sega collection you'd got from EJ. I remember, me and him hunting those games, and out of hundreds of games we got, there was only 2 games that we couldn't get to work, and one of them looked like it was missing some of the little gold, whatever the little gold teeth things are, on the end of the cartridge. I don't know the technical term, but it just looked like it was just messed up. I mean, it's very reliable. You look at anything from, Game Boys to, Ataris, just the stuff still works. Discs, it's always a little bit tougher. Now, you said with the way that one loaded, does it have like a sliding tray that comes out like the old PS2s?
Well, no, it's got like imagine the top of it. Imagine because it looks very similar to, the first PlayStation 3s. You remember how it had that like George Foreman look to it?
Yeah, yeah.
And the disc would come out off the side, like just slide out. But imagine the whole top of the PS3. Imagine having that big black dome. It slides to the side, and that's where you put the CD in. And it comes out really fast too. Like you hit it, it's like kind of like a Star Trek door.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like I said, it just it seems very poorly made, and if I want to get PS3, I want to get one that's going to last me, and I think that
sliding doors just don't like. Actually, that made me think my Xbox. Just recently, I went to play a couple games a friend of mine had given me, and it won't open. I didn't do anything to it. It was playing just a couple weeks ago, and then I was like, it's those sliding trays. I was like, I don't know if it got jammed or what, but that's why I like the PS2 Slim and my PS3. It's like you just slide it on in. It's nothing too much extra to break on it.
Yeah, the one thing too, it might be with the Xbox, it might be the gear, like when the gears might have finally wore out. Because I mean, you gotta think about it. You have these for years, and you hit the button, and it just keeps coming out. It's gonna wear out after a while, and it's just funny because there was a video I watched on YouTube, and it was this Canadian chick. I want to say her YouTube channel is like Riri Game or Riri Game or something like that. But she had like this video where they were seeing how much damage they could do to a normal Nintendo cart and see if it could still play. So they got like 6 Mario and Duck Hunt games because those things are a dime and a dozen. So they got those, and they did everything, like dropping it from buildings, leaving it out in the cold, doing all this stuff, and all of them worked. The only time it didn't work is when they drilled through the circuit board. But what was funny is where they drilled through the circuit board, they hit the Duck Hunt side. So the Mario worked. But the Duck Hunt was completely scrambled. It was like they had put in a really bad Game Genie code or something. So I mean, it's funny. Like 50 years from now, the Nintendo carts. I don't know about the systems, but it's like the cartridges are still probably going to be working, and you have to do a lot to those games to make them not work. I mean, cosmetically, you can mess them up. I got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the Nintendo. And I bought it from Yellow Dog Disc, and I noticed right after I bought it that at the very bottom there's a hole in it, like an actual hole. It looked like someone might have like used it to hook the game up on the wall or something. I don't know. But it had nothing to do with the circuit board, and the game works perfectly. I mean, you can't get that with disc. You can't get that with PlayStation games. So it's just funny, just thinking back about that.
Maybe they use the cartridge to lure people with it, like Scrooge McDuck and his dollars on strings.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny. But also what I wanted to mention as well is I I did kind of like a Google Plus hangout with some fellow YouTubers. I did it with Classic Game Freak and Scuba Diver Picker, and it was my first Google Plus hangout. It was my first first time doing that sort of thing, and it was a lot of fun. Classic Game Freak ended up posting the video on his YouTube channel, and it was a lot of fun. We just basically reminisced and talked about box games and renting video games. I was telling them about we did an episode not too long ago on renting video games, and we talked about that. And it's funny because we did it for about an hour and 20 minutes, but it definitely didn't feel like it was that long. And it kind of makes me think back about this podcast here and why like I wanted to make the podcast better and longer, because when you get so passionate about something, a minute to you may be like an actual hour, so it was a lot of fun. If you guys want to check out their channels, it's Scuba Diver Picker and Classic Game Freak, and the freak part in Classic Game Freak is PHREAK. But you guys can always go on my YouTube channel, Xander Scullion, and I actually have their channels on my featured channels page, so you guys can find it there as well. They're really cool guys. Scuba Diver Picker, he's local. Me and him actually met in a retro video game store, and we kind of just hit it off, and he's a really cool guy. So definitely check that video out. I think once a week or once every other week, whenever we get a chance, we're all going to do like a little hangout. And it gave me a great idea to maybe do some video podcast of Excess Gaming, like me and you, James, just, maybe like for a 20th episode, we could do like a video and kind of show people what we're all about.
Oh, yeah. It'll be a little better now because I'm no longer doing it from my garage. All the episodes before, I always seemed to just be in the garage. Now I'm actually inside the house. It's probably people look around and see some of the cool stuff in the background. I'm sure we each got a few games sitting around. I know a big prime example, like you were saying, with now having to be able to do a longer format and the length of time. I think the Castlevania was definitely one of the first ones where we both love Castlevania. We're just trying to, we discussed beforehand what it was like. Okay, we just don't even need to talk about this. Like, we'll just skip this, that, and it was like, it was some of the bad stuff, but it was still, you could see where the time could crunch you down. And there's just so many great games. And I know, actually, I was talking to the guy at my GameStop the other day. I went in and I bought The Walking Dead on PS3.
Awesome.
I've played a little bit of it in the demo before, and I know you had gotten it. Another friend of mine, Ryan, had gotten it, and everybody was playing it, and I was like, well, I didn't want it ever to get spoiled, and I said, I need to go ahead and play it. And it's a game that my wife actually was sitting there, is where she's like, do that, and she's all yelling. I'm like, stop yelling at me. I'm trying to, it is a very tense game, and it's kind of funny. It still can be kind of creepy, like even though the way the graphics are, it's not like the most realistic looking game, but it still can, it just has a tense feeling to it, and you get really involved with it. I find like when certain characters like die or something happens, you kind of feel a little bad. I mean, it just happens to me sometimes. I can get attached to characters in games. A lot of people do. It's nothing to be like ashamed of. Yeah. But you just kind of find yourself like, oh man, you're watching somebody just getting eaten, and it kind of puts you in there. And it's a different kind of game. It's more close to a it kind of more similar to a point and click adventure game than just a full on open world, and it works so well for it. I mean, it's a great game whether you download it or buy the disc. And while I was in there, I pre-ordered Castlevania Mirrors of Fate on 3DS. That is the correct title of that one, right? Mirrors of Fate.
Yeah. A funny story about that one once you tell that story. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. I'll just go ahead and finish up on mine. I did the pre-order, and I did find out, like most Castlevania games, they always have pretty cool pre-order stuff. And this one comes with a sticker, with Trevor, Alucard, and Simon on it, and it also comes with a whole slip cover, or like a little slip cover case for your 3DS. I think maybe it's more of like a storage device, and I don't know if the sticker goes on it, or if it has artwork on it itself. So I mean, it's not quite as cool as some of the pre-orders they've had in the past, but hey, anytime you can get some Castlevania swag, I'm all up for that.
Yeah, it always seems like they always have a really cool pre-order with Castlevania. It kind of makes me think of the Portrait of Ruin pre-order that came with the art book, the soundtrack, the stylus holder. I mean, it came with all this stuff. And and when you were talking about the name for the title, what's really confusing is Mirrors of Fate. It's not just called Castlevania Mirrors of Fate. It's called Castlevania Lord of Shadows Mirrors of Fate. Now, I just found out Lord of Shadows 2 got pushed back to 2014, which I'm really kind of butthurt about, because I've been wanting to play this for a while, and they've pushed it back twice. But anyway, when I went to GameStop, and I was just like, I was talking to one of my friends, and one of the coworkers overheard me. And I said, yeah, it sucks that Lord of Shadows 2, it's not coming out the next year. And they're like, no, it's coming out in March. I'm like, no, that's Mirrors of Fate. And they're like, no, it says Lord of Shadows here. And I'm like, yes, Lord of Shadows, Mirrors of Fate. And we had like this 10-minute conversation, and it kind of made me think of that one episode of Animaniacs when the band Who was playing, and they're like, who's playing? Oh, it's the Who. No, who was playing? So it's kind of confusing, but yeah, Mirrors of Fate, it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. And I recently got a 3DS XL, but I didn't get it it was not because I got it because I wanted to upgrade. I actually got it because I lost my 3DS. I don't know if I lost it. Well, I did lose it, but I'm thinking it might have gotten stolen as well, because I think I might have lost it at work and someone might have saw it and picked it up. Because if you would have saw this bag, it had my Fire Engine Red 3DS, the charger, and Super Street Fighter 4. So whoever found it was like, holy shit, I have all this here. This is all here. So I'm like, man, it sucks. So, I had to go out and get the XL, and
at least you didn't have all your all of your games in there with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes those little carrying cases and neat little things they make to carry all your accessories are not the best, because if you have everything in that and you lose it or someone steals it, and you just lost more stuff.
Exactly. And that's why, in a rule of thumb, I never use those little carry-in game cases. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to bring my 3DS somewhere. I'm just going to bring a game that I won't mind playing all day. For the most part, I have gaming ADD. I'll play one game for 1 minute, and then I'll go back and play another one. But, when I'm playing a handheld and I'm, somewhere at work or on a road trip, I just pick one game, and I just stick with it. So I'm glad I didn't have that situation, because I don't have that many 3DS games. I have probably about 6 or 7 of them. But I absolutely love Street Fighter 4 on a 3DS. It was so fun, and it was, a perfect port of the game. So that really sucks, but it's not too expensive, so I'll have to go back and get it. But, going back to the XL, I remember, James, when you were, first on the show, because if you guys didn't know, James, he started out as a guest. I started the first 2 episodes of the podcast by myself, and me and James have already been talking for a while, and he was like, yeah, I'd love to be a guest. And I'm like, well, this would be great, because doing a podcast by yourself, it's not fun. It's really hard to do. It's not like a YouTube video. So I got James on there, and me and him just hit it off, and he just stayed on there. He was like that roommate that was he just came over to hang out, and he just never left. He just stayed at the house. Not complaining, because it was, great. I love having him on the show. But when we had you on the show, you had just gotten the XL. It had just came out. And I had just got my 3DS a month before the XL was announced. So we were kind of talking about the XL, and I remember you were asking me, do you wish you had the XL? And Yeah. Back then I was wanting to have the XL, but I had just gotten a 3DS, so I was like, I'm not going to go back and spend more money on another system that I just got. But I'm glad I got it. I love the XL, love it.
It's yeah, I mean it's definitely great. And like I said, for me, I had a DS XL, so it was like going from that. I was kind of like, man, I guess they used to the big screen. And when my wife asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, I want something, but I don't really want to ask. I was like, what do you want? And I was like, yeah, 3DS. So my wife is very awesome, and she got it for me, and it was nice not to have to drop back down. Now, one of my friends I know, he said he kind of liked the smaller screen, and he also had a DS XL, and he went to the regular 3DS. His thing usually is anytime he gets a system, the price drops on it. That's like a constant thing for him. Anytime he gets a system, it's like price drop. So at least actually that did happen to him when he got his 3DS. But they had that very sweet ambassador program,
Yeah.
which kind of makes it worth it because they had some really cool games that you can't get. When I got my 3DS, I was like, oh man, I can't wait to play Metroid Zero or Fusion, whichever one they'd put out. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. No, I couldn't play it. That was only for the people who, had bought the 3DS when it came out, and they did the price drop. And I think Nintendo was very, very fair in doing that. For the people, because you could feel kind of ripped off if you buy something, and then a few weeks later it's $50 less or whatever.
Yeah, I think that was a really good decision on Nintendo's part. But yeah, like I absolutely love the 3DS. I think it's a good system. I don't really, having it for as long as I have, I still don't really play with it with the 3D on too much. I'll turn it off, not because it gives me a headache or anything like that, but I still don't like the fact that when you're holding the 3DS and you move it in 3D mode, you just move your hand just the slightest, it goes out of focus. It doesn't do that so much with the XL, but I don't know, it's like, I just end up turning it off. But I couldn't imagine playing Mirrors of Fate on the smaller 3DS. Like, I'm glad I'm going to play it on the XL because that big screen, the best way to describe it is when I got the XL, it felt like I went from a tube television and I just bought my first plasma. That's what I felt like. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So, man, I was so excited. I absolutely love it.
Because it is a huge. I mean, isn't something like 70% bigger. I mean, it's quite a significant amount. So I mean, it's still up to you if anybody's thinking of upgrading. I mean, it's not a bad idea, but I think we still might say, if you had to pick between that and another system, sometimes you might want to just go with the other system. But if you hadn't got one yet, spend the extra little bit on it and definitely get the XL. I really enjoy the XL, whether it's the DS, the 3DS. It's hard to go wrong. It's a great system, and like you said, whether you use the 3D or not, I don't use the 3D, and it's still, that wasn't a key selling point for me. I just knew like, okay, this is the next version of, Game Boy, so I always got to end up getting one. Because they're always going to have, just good games on it.
Yeah, like what I was going to say was the 3D element. It always seemed kind of gimmicky to me, but it's still got great games. The market, and I really like the 3DS market. Like you were talking about an indie game that you played on there that was a lot of fun. That was
Yes, I was just thinking of that. I'm glad you brought that up. It's a game called Gunman Clive, Clive, and it's $2, which is it's hard to pass up a game for $2. I mean, there's a lot of good cheap games on there, but I'd heard about this one on one of the what show today? It was another one of the podcasts we listened to. It might have been the Nintendo Fun Club. They mainly focus on Nintendo stuff, and they were talking about it. So I came home and checked it out. I had a few dollars left on my account on the 3DS. And it plays a lot like Mega Man, only you're a little cowboy. So, it's kind of got a little cutesy look to it. But the backgrounds, they look like they're drawn in pencil and they're kind of moving, almost like Pigpen's dust cloud on the Charlie Brown cartoon. The little trees and stuff will kind of wiggle and wriggle in the background. It just has a very nice look to it. And you go through the level, you get different power. It's a little Contra-ish, because as you get power-ups, you almost get like a spread shot type of gun, or you get one with missiles. And it just, it looks almost just like Mega Man when he's climbing and shooting on a ladder. And I mean, for $2, like I said, I mean, if you've got a 3DS and $2, I gotta highly suggest that one. That one I had a lot of fun. It's got a lot of levels. I think each stage has 5 levels to it, and then I don't know. I thought it was gonna end after I played a couple stages. I was like, $2. It probably won't be very long, but no, I think you get quite a bit of amount of content, and it's $2. So y'all should definitely check that one out.
Yeah, and if you notice on the 3DS market, a lot of the games that you download aren't really that expensive. Even like the first party like Nintendo games and Game Boy games, I mean, there's really nothing that's over $10. I mean, most of everything's under $10, which I thought was a great move for Nintendo, considering that these are handheld games. Or I mean, some of the Nintendo classics. I mean, we've played Super Mario Brothers, we've played Legend of Zelda. So I mean, to charge more than $10 would be just kind of ridiculous. But I really like that. That's one of the things I really hate, the fact that I lost my 3DS, because I had some games already downloaded. Like I had Mega Man, the Wily's Revenge. I had
the Game Boy one.
Yeah, and I had Avenging Spirit, which if you guys have never played that game, I didn't play it when I was younger. I didn't even.
Me neither.
But I played it not too long ago, and oh my gosh, that game's it's really hard, but it's a lot of fun. Basically, you're dead, and your ghost possesses the enemy, and when you had that control of the enemy, you have a little life bar. So you take possession of like a gangster, so you got a gun and you're sitting there shooting people. Well, when you die, you're back a ghost again, and you have to travel back to another body before your time runs out. When your time runs out, then you're dead for good. And I'm trying to remember who exactly published that game, but it was very unique, and I definitely would recommend it. I think it's...
I want to say, was it somebody like LJN, maybe?
Maybe.
So one company, they had it kind of reminds me a little bit of a game one of the ones I talked about on one of our Halloween episodes, The Haunting, starring Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Because in that one he goes around and possesses items and things in the house, but in the Avenging Spirit, you actually get to jump into people. And I think one of them kind of looked like Arnold from the original Game Boy Terminator 2 game, if I remember right. It's just got like the 3 people. So you got like a gangster, I think like a muscle dude, and a chick. And each one can do different things. And it's one I never heard of. Me and Xander were talking the other day about that. And there's another game I bought on there called Fortified Zone. And there's so many just classic, great games on the original Game Boy. I mean, you had a lot of duds, but that little black and white thing had some amazing games. And the Fortified Zone is, I want to say it's maybe kind of related to like Ikari Warriors. It's kind of in that style. And I enjoyed playing the Fortified Zone, and it's one I could tell if I had it as a kid, I would have really loved it. So you can just play some games now, and you can tell you're like, man, I would have been like all about that one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's funny, going back, playing some of the retro stuff, and I really think the retro scene has gotten bigger, because it's almost like a baby boom type thing. Because we grew up with the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis and whatnot. Back when we were kids, when these games were at its heyday, we couldn't afford to get all these games and stuff. And now we're in our 20s or a little older, and we have jobs. We have steady income. Of course, we have bills and stuff like that to pay. But for the most part, like we can actually buy our childhood back. That's what I feel like I'm doing. I'm going back and playing some of these games that either I've never heard about or I've always wanted to play, and they never had it at Blockbuster for me to rent it, or I just never had chance, or I didn't even, like I said, I didn't even know it was out. And that's kind of like with Avenging Spirits. I play that and I'm like, this game, I would have loved this when I was a kid, but if for some reason this was a game that I rented, it would have pissed me off. Because, like I said, the game's tough. So, I don't know, maybe the younger version of me probably would have beat it. Because it seemed like when I was younger, I was a lot better at video games than I am now.
That happens, and sometimes I think it's like if you have a game, you're like, well, this is the only one I'm getting for a while. Better get all I can out of it. I mean, I can't imagine. I never beat Super Ghouls and Ghosts all the way, but I made it through to the final boss. I beat it the one time, and I went through again, and I mean, that just kind of... It kind of amazes me, because like overall in a lot of games, like I'm honestly not that great. And just the fact that I could go through something like Super Ghouls and Ghosts, almost, I figure it pretty much counts as beating it. But, those games, a lot of those games were super tough. They just, we didn't have, saves and, sometimes even continues. You'd have a password that was, this was a funny story. I was playing a game on I have a lot of emulators, and I was playing Battle of Olympus. I really... It was on the NES, kind of based. It was like Zelda 2, very similar to Zelda 2, but set in like Greek mythology time. And I was playing it, and it had these really long passcodes, and I was like, oh man. So I was like, wait a minute, I got a phone. So I took a picture of it. And then I remembered with the emulators, you have save states. So I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I could have just saved that. So it's like I was still, in passcode mode. Like I have to, and it was like 26 characters to the code. Just, so they made some of those ridiculously long.
They did. What was funny was, like, you remember every once in a while you could rent a video game and it would actually still have the manual. Like, you could take the manual home with you. And whenever I had the manual, I would always turn to the back, because sometimes people are really, really nice in the sense that they would go in the back of the manual where the notes section was, and they would put down passwords or codes. And I'm just like, I remember how happy I would get when I would rent like Mega Man 6 or something like that, and I would open up the manual and look back there. I'm like, oh, look at these passwords. Oh man, I could go ahead and beat the game if I want. And when you're a kid, that stuff's awesome. I mean, I probably wouldn't do that now, because I actually like to play the games. But what I was talking about, when you're younger, you're better at video games. I am not the best Halo player. I love playing Halo. I think Halo is a lot of fun. But I'm decent at it. Some games I'm like in the positive, some games I'm in the negative with my kill streaks. And I remember I hadn't played Halo in about 2 weeks, and I was playing a game, and I had a really bad score. It was embarrassing. I don't even want to tell you how bad I did. But, after I played it, I was like, all right, I gotta go to sleep. I gotta go to work the next morning. So I just turned off my Xbox. Well, the next day, I turned on my Xbox to maybe maybe to watch Netflix or YouTube or something like that. And I see I have a message. And I'm like, okay, well, who sent me a message? And it was someone from that game that was on my team. And they were just like, oh my gosh, you suck so bad. Blah. I know that, our team wasn't the best, but I looked at your track record and you had all these negatives. And I was just like, oh man, this guy's really mad. But get this, he sent me 2 messages. The second message was like, I don't understand how you could be level 41. I went back in your stats, and I saw that you had all these deaths and all these kills, and he was just like, why don't you just go back playing checkers? And I'm just like, oh my god.
Man, you better watch out. He's gonna...
This guy was just so mad about Halo. I was like, dude. I was like, sorry, I didn't know we were playing like a Halo tournament or something like that. I'm a casual Halo player. What can I say? I don't play Halo every single day, and I must admit I leveled up pretty quick because I I drink lots of Mountain Dew, and they had the double XP, and damn it, I took advantage of it.
Yeah, that guy was probably like 12 or something anyway. I just imagine he's.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But stuff like that's really funny, and like I said, when you get older, I don't know if it's because of your reflexes get slower, or maybe you got too much on your mind. You're thinking about what you're going to eat for dinner while you're playing Mega Man. I don't know, but it just seems like when you get a little older, it's like the games get a little harder. Because I've even went back to some of the retro stuff, and I'm just like, man, how the hell did I beat this?
Yeah, it is quite a. I have a bad story. Like you're talking about, like the Halo. I actually was playing Mike Tyson's Punch Out the other day, and I went to round 2 with Glass Joe. Not really sure how that happened, but that's kind of an embarrassing story, I guess. Because usually you should be able to knock him out in the first round. I know part of the problem I have with, I think with some games like now, and I noticed this in The Walking Dead, and it affects my gameplay, is the fact that I've not found out how to invert the Y-axis on that game.
Oh, really?
I have to. I'd borrowed a Silent Hill game from a friend of mine, and I was trying to play it, and I was like, I can't play it. It's like, why not? I was like, I can't invert the Y-axis. I can't play it, And they actually had where you could, I think if you were shooting, like you could adjust the aim for the Y-axis, but for the actual looking, you couldn't do it. I mean, The Walking Dead, there's like one of the first zombies you fight on there. It killed me 3 or 4 times. All because I was unable to invert the Y-axis.
Well, also another thing that I got 2 things to talk about with The Walking Dead. One of the things I don't like about playing The Walking Dead on the Xbox is all your decisions that you make on Walking Dead are at the very bottom screen. Now, say something's going on and you have to make a decision. You're about to make a decision, and you just found out that someone just logged in line, like they just logged in, and Xbox lets you know when like so and so's online. What sucks is so many times I was about to make a decision, and mind you, the decisions that you make, you only have like 10 seconds to think about it. It's not like something you just think about. So you got 10 seconds, and right when I'm about to make the decision or look at my menu, it would show me someone's online and just block the whole menu. I really wish they would have,
Wow.
Yeah, I really wish they would have put it somewhere else, or, I mean, I know you can turn the notifications off on your Xbox, but,
Yeah, PS is up at the top when people come on, so, like, it doesn't affect it at all. I mean, sometimes, though, it still just kind of takes you out of the, you're in a tense moment, and it's just like, whoop, so-and-so's online. And it's like, that's nice to know. So I guess maybe some games, it might even be worth it just to turn the notifications off when you're playing that. If it can make for a better enjoyment of kind of just, keeping you in that game.
It's kind of like when you get those games, and it's like during the day and it's bright and sunny, but you're like, I don't want any sun in here, so you're throwing up the thick curtains, you're like turning the lights down, and you're like, let's get this game on. It's kind of like that kind of situation.
Yeah.
And
You just want to like knock everything out, and it just it kind of helps put you. That's how it was when we were playing I was playing The Walking Dead with my wife last night. It was just it's dark. She's sitting there jumping and yelling like just like you're watching the show or a movie. And with those decisions, it'll come up to like a hard decision. I'm like, which one? She's like, I don't know. And one of them I didn't say anything, and she was kind of getting on me, and I said, hey, silence is an option. And it is.
Well, also another thing I want to mention about Walking Dead, guys, if you have an Xbox Slim and you're wanting to get The Walking Dead, I would highly advise you to get the downloadable version of it. Like, don't buy the hard disk. Like, me personally, if I had the choice between having a physical copy or a digital copy, I'd always pick the physical. I don't know. I guess I'm old school like that. But there's actually some problems. If you have a Slim 360 and you get the physical copy, they've been reporting some like glitching and some skipping, and it just seems to be not compatible. I mean, hopefully they'll release a patch for it and to fix it. But I have a Slim 360. I have like the 250 gig hard drive 360, and yeah, I heard from the All Gen Gamers podcast, and Pete Dorr was talking about it. He was like, saying the same thing. He was like, just get the digital copy, and that's what I did. I actually went out today and bought a points card, a 2,400 points card, so I could buy the rest of the episodes and.
And at least with that too, as far as downloading, you actually save a couple bucks. That's one of my biggest problems with download games is, I gotta go to the store. And once or twice I have been, almost too lazy to go down to the store. But if it's the exact same price, I'd rather have the physical copy. I'd rather have the book, the case, the instructions, just, everything with it. And I'd say, at least with The Walking Dead, you'll save about $5. I think if you buy all the episodes together, it's actually no. I think it's $20. If you buy them all separate, download they're $5 a piece, or if you get the set together, they're $20.
Yeah.
And then it's $30 on disc. So I mean, if you can save $10, at least that's a bit more incentive. Don't charge me the same price if I'm not getting the same amount of stuff.
Well, I will say about The Walking Dead is I do like the fact that it's not a long game. It's each episode tops is about like 3 hours. I heard the last episode is the shortest episode. That's like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. But it's nice that it's just something that you can pick up and play, and it's not like because I don't have the time to get lost in a 40-hour game that often. So it's good that I had the option to just play an episode, play the whole thing, then go back and play another episode when I get a chance. I think that's a great option.
It does. It makes, we sat there for the amount of time it'd take, to watch a movie, played through an episode, and it really, I could see like with my wife watching it, it probably was more, like a movie to her. I would say too, as another warning, and I don't know if this has happened a lot, but a friend of mine did mention that he had, and I know he has a PS3, and he had a little bit of issue with, and actually I'm not sure if he got the disc or a download thing. So, but I know he had an issue on one of the episodes, but he said he just kind of rewound it and it didn't happen again. So I haven't heard as much things with the PS3 as we have, with the 360 if you're using a Slim.
Yeah, and like I said, I actually saw that because, and I'm going to mention real quick, guys, if you're new listeners, we actually do have a Facebook page for XS Gaming Podcast. It's a group page. I do have a like page, but honestly, I like using the group one a lot better because I feel like it's more a community thing than it is, I'm this guy that everyone is a fan of. I don't want to be egotistical like that. So
we'd rather you just come and talk, and listen to the show.
Exactly, so I got that page up, and you just put an XS Gaming Podcast on Facebook. Just make sure the X and the S has a space in between. And yeah, I saw that on the page that he had posted that, and I was just like, I was gonna comment and I was gonna ask him if he got the physical or digital copy. Cause
I'm wondering though, because he did mention, because he did say it was the best $20 he'd spent on a game in a long time. And if that was the right amount, the 20 got me to think, it's like maybe he did download it. Maybe maybe it was just a random little glitch. Because, things like that happen with technology.
It's not exactly foolproof. But, yeah, definitely. Well, before we close this episode, what I was going to do is I think we could talk about some games we've been playing lately. Definitely.
Yes.
All right. Just pass that on to you, James. What have you been playing lately?
All right. Well, what I'm going to... I actually been playing a bit of my Game Boy. I have a Game Boy SP I'd bought to, so I could play my old Game Boy games and everything on it. It's a great system to have. play Game Boy Color, Game Boy GBAs. And, talking earlier about, a game you play as a child and, going back and playing it again, sometimes that magic is still not there. Sometimes you can ruin that childhood memory. But I recently found Home Alone for the original Game Boy. And yeah, I know it's like, it's a, movie license, Home Alone. And I don't care for the other Home Alones on the other, Super NES, Genesis, Master System. But this Game Boy one was just something about it that I absolutely loved as a kid. And so I popped it in and I started playing it, and it still kind of had that magic there. It was a lot harder than it was when I was younger, and the music was horrendous. But I just turned it off. But I mean, that one just it stood up, and I mean, anybody else could play it, and it might not just have that same memory. But and another one I got, which would be my game of the year that I bought for $1, would be Snoopy's Tennis on the Game Boy Color. It's just a basic little Game Boy tennis game with all the Peanuts characters. I'm a big fan of Charlie Brown and the gang, and just a really great one. And then I also picked up, and we heard about this one a lot on All Gen Gamers. I always hear them talking about Motocross Maniacs for the Game Boy. It was an early title. I never played it as a kid, and I found it for $3. I was like, yeah, let me pick this one up, and it's really good. It's kind of like Excitebike. It's very Excitebike like. That's the best game I could use to describe. I know it's similar to another game called Kickstart or Kickstarter that I think was on the Commodore, one of the older systems. You don't kind of have those levels, the multi-levels on Excitebike, how you can go up and down on the track. It's all straight on, but it has, loops and ramps, and it's pretty tough because I can't beat track number 2. But the little bit that I do play, I actually have had a absolute blast. And I think the last one that I'm still playing quite a bit is called Majin and the Forsaken Kingdom. I think I talked about it on one of the last episodes. I picked it up for like $14. It's really good. I'm really enjoying it. You're a little dude and you're walking around with a big dude, and they kind of have that little friendship. Kind of makes you think of Mice and Men a little bit, because the guy is very, ooh, thank you. He's all big and slow, but you can team up together and fight enemies, and you got to use them to push walls over and crush people. It's got lots of little puzzles. You can, you got to use your brain a little bit on it. It's just a pretty enjoyable game to me. I've actually had a blast playing it, and I've still been. So those are some of the last ones. And and just another thing too, on a note, lots of Sega games came out. I know we were talking earlier about some fighting games, and if you're a fan of any of the old Sega arcade games, they recently put out for $5 a piece Virtua Fighter 2, Fighting Vipers, and Sonic the Fighters, which was only in the arcade and on one of the GameCube Sonic collections, I believe. They're all $5 a piece. They're the arcade ports. And if you have any nostalgia for some good old Sega stuff, they're great. I still like to support Sega because I really want Yakuza 5 to come out here. So I try to buy their stuff when I can. But Fighting Vipers was that was an interesting game. You're fighting in cages with armor and skateboards, and I think somebody's on rollerblades. It's not quite as technical as a Virtua Fighter, and maybe not as good as Virtua Fighter, but it was different and it was fun, and it's $5.
Yeah, I was definitely talking to you right before we started the show. I was just like debating on what to get, because I was like, didn't know if I wanted to get Fighting Vipers or Radiant Silvergun, because I'm a huge Ikaruga fan, and Radiant Silvergun was before Ikaruga. It's kind of like the before. but I don't know if it's part of the same storyline or not. But some of the games I've been playing lately, I've been, of course, playing Walking Dead. I started playing a little bit more on my 3DS, trying out the XL. So I went back to some of the DS games, like I was playing Animal Crossing on it a little bit. All my animals were pissed off at me because I hadn't played that game in I hadn't played that game in like 2 years. So they were just like, where have you been? Let's see what else I've been playing. I've been playing a lot of my Dreamcast. I've been playing Cannon Spike, which I heard about this game through Metal Jesus Rocks on his channel. And this game is so unique and so cool. It's basically like a third-person shooter, kind of like a shoot-'em-up, but instead of, controlling a little spaceship or something like that, you're controlling Capcom characters on rollerblades. So it's funny. You start out the game, you can play as, I believe, someone from Darkstalkers. You can play as Charlie and Cammy from Street Fighter. And the first stage starts out where you're in the mansion from Resident Evil, and you're sitting there shooting like the dogs and the zombies. And you can actually unlock Arthur from Ghouls and Ghosts and Mega Man. So that game's a lot of fun. It's like $30 online, so I mean, it's not too pricey. I've also
Definitely a good one. I remember my brother had that one, and that one was that was a quite a fun. It's a unique one. Just different thing for Capcom, kind of an old school style, but you just had all the characters from all the typical fighting games.
Yeah, and Capcom, like, they just definitely catered to the Dreamcast. There were so many great Dreamcast games that were Capcom. And I've also been playing a little bit of indie games on the Xbox 360. I was playing White Noise, which is very similar to the Slender Man game that you can play on PC. It's basically a ripoff. I played a little bit of it, but I got really bored of it because it does have that creepy atmosphere where you just have a flashlight and you're in the middle of a field and you're looking for like these tapes, and every time you get a tape, everything gets more and more creepy. So it definitely has the atmosphere, but yeah, I just don't really care for it.
I've still been playing a lot of Shadow Complex too. I'm kind of late to the getting a 360 again, but Shadow Complex was the first game I downloaded, and that game's just amazing.
Yeah, that game's a lot of fun. They need to make a Metroid as Shadow Complex. That'd be awesome.
Definitely, I still have hopes that Metroid will return to a more traditional 2D style. I think the 3DS would be a perfect place, and probably the only place they would put something like that. But in between getting those old school style Castlevanias, and I mean, Fusion and Zero, even though they're quite a few years old now, they still put those out. So I just like to hope that they'll at least do one more, because those last two, the Fusion and Zero, were so good. All the Metroids are good.
Yeah.
I never got into the primes too much myself, but as far as that old school classic style, it's
Can't be beat.
no.
Definitely. Well, guys, we're going to close out this episode. It was definitely a lot of fun to actually, talk longer than 30 minutes like we did on our past episodes. And definitely look for us on Podomatic.com. That's XS Gaming Podcast. And I'll have a link on my YouTube channel, Xander Scullion, because I'm probably going to post this podcast in all of its entirety. So I can get kind of people back into it, the people that would listen to us on Blog Talk know that we haven't completely dropped off the face of the earth. We just got a bigger place. We got more room. We got a backyard now. We can actually, enjoy ourselves, So it's going to be a lot of fun. I look forward to a lot more episodes and everything like that. Definitely. So with that being said, guys, until next time, happy gaming.
Later on, guys. Have a pleasant evening.